Welcome back to the Explainer. So today we're looking at an absolutely fascinating botanical specimen, the Mussaenda Red Dona Luz. And we're not just looking at its pretty flowers. We're diving into a real-world, high-stakes gardening evaluation. We've got field notes from a dedicated cultivator, and we're going to unpack exactly what happens when you push this specific, vibrant plant right to its limits. It's kind of like a botanical stress test. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Can a vibrant botanical specimen actually survive an impending heat wave stuck in just a simple pot? Honestly, it's a fantastic question, and it's the core focus of our explainer today. Because, cultivation isn't always just sticking a plant in the ground and crossing your fingers. Sometimes it's about deliberately pushing those boundaries. We want to see exactly what this plant can endure when its root system is strictly confined and the environmental stress just keeps climbing. So, moving into Section 1, the potted experiment. We're testing limits before the heat wave. The author of our source material, Ang, actually picked up 2 specimens of the Mussaenda Red Dona Luz specifically for this evaluation. And a quick side note, he grabbed these because they were available at a really affordable price, which honestly is a super smart move if you're setting up an experimental evaluation like this. So, he's got his 2 samples secured, potted up, and ready to go. But here is the kicker. The timing of this experiment is literally everything. They are rapidly approaching the heat wave season, right? So this isn't just your casual, easy-breezy spring planting. A heat wave acts as the ultimate, unforgiving environmental challenge for a potted test like this. When ambient temperatures spike, moisture evaporates from potted soil incredibly fast. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame compared to plants with deep root systems naturally insulated by the earth. It makes survival infinitely more difficult. To really grasp the stakes here, let's look at the cultivator's exact words. Ang notes, even though I don't have plans to grow this outdoors but merely as a potted plant, I wonder if this is even feasible in the long run. And that quote, that perfectly captures the core tension of this entire endeavor. Normally, a vibrant species like the Dona Luz might have the run of a spacious outdoor garden, but confining it entirely to a pot, that changes all the biological rules. Is it feasible over the long run? Is it going to thrive or just barely scrape by? To answer that, we really have to look closely at how this plant is built. That brings us to Section 2, Anatomy of an Illusion, Seeing Beyond the Red. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we kind of have to look past the obvious. When you first glance at a Mussaenda Red Dona Luz, your eyes are immediately drawn to those massive flashy splashes of color. But as we know in botany, things aren't always what they seem. Let's break down the physical characteristics that make this plant so visually deceptive, but also so perfectly adapted to its environment. Notice the comparison we're looking at right now. On one side, we have what everyone instantly notices, right? The giant, vibrant red bracts. They totally look like massive petals. But, plot twist, they aren't. The actual true flower is that tiny, white structure hidden right in the center. Those giant red bracts are essentially modified leaves putting on this brilliant display of anatomical trickery to draw attention. Meanwhile, the delicate, actual floral work is happening right there in that tiny, unassuming white center. All right, Section 3, Built for Survival, Nature's Microscopic Armor. Let's move to and see how this builds our understanding of how the Mussaenda might actually survive this crazy potted heatwave experiment. So we know it has a giant red decoy and a tiny white flower, but what protects that delicate flower when the scorching sun is just beating down on that little pot? Well, it turns out the answer lies in structures so small you literally have to look incredibly close to even notice them. Right at the junction, exactly where those giant red bracts meet the tiny true white flower, there is a specific, highly textured zone. These are the trichomes. Basically, this is the distinctly fuzzy and hairy part of the plant. Imagine a dense, microscopic carpet of tiny hairs guarding the absolute most vulnerable part of the reproductive center. And this fuzzy texture isn't just for show either. It is a highly functional, absolutely critical piece of the plant's biological toolkit. And this brilliantly illustrates how the plant layers its physical defenses. You see, those hairy trichomes are actually part of a larger, highly specialized anatomical feature known as the calyx. The calyx is this robust protective structure explicitly made up of sepals and a calyx tube. Think of it as forming an armored, fuzzy little cup that holds that tiny, fragile white flower completely safe inside. So why does the Mussaenda Red even need such an elaborate, tubular armor system? It really comes down to 3 crucial survival functions: protection from pests, water retention, and shielding. Think back to our core experiment for a second. Ang is testing this plant in a simple pot, right as a severe heat wave approaches. In that extreme environment, the calyx's ability to retain precious water and actively shield the delicate inner flower from the intense elements is absolutely vital. I mean, without this microscopic hairy armor, surviving a heat wave in a confined pot would likely be impossible. So the crucial point is, even with all this brilliant natural armor, the trichomes and the protective calyx, the ultimate test still remains. Eng leaves us with this exact, lingering question, wondering how this plant will actually unfold in the coming moons. Specifically, will this impressive anatomy allow it to not just survive, but to bloom prolifically despite being trapped in a pot during a brutal heat wave? It's such a fascinating botanical cliffhanger. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this structured dive into the resilient anatomy of the Mussaenda Red Dona Luz has sparked your curiosity about the hidden survival battles happening right now in everyday plants. See you next time.